My name is Eliza. I turned 18 2 days ago. It was quiet, like always. No party, no cake. Just a text from my mom in the morning that read, "Happy birthday. Don't expect too much. We're tight on money." I didn't expect much. I never do. But what I did expect was to keep my violin, the one thing that's truly mine. I worked 2 summers at the local diner, saving every tip to buy it. A warm, honey-toned piece with a scratch behind the scroll that made it feel real, alive. It got me through school recitals, orchestra competitions, and even my Juilliard audition. So when I came home today and saw the empty stand in the corner of my room, my stomach sank. I sprinted to the living room. My older brother, Jason, was unboxing a brand new gaming PC, one of those high-end builds with RGB lights and dual monitors. He didn't even look up as he said, "Sweet rig, right? Mom and Dad finally came through." I didn't speak. I walked straight to the kitchen where my mom was making dinner. "Where's my violin?" I asked, heart racing. She didn't even flinch. "We sold it. Jason needed a proper setup for his online classes. Be grateful it's going to something useful." "Useful?" I choked out. "I need that for my scholarship, my audition." "Don't be dramatic," my dad chimed in from the couch. "You can always play on a school rental. They're all the same." No, they're not. I turned away, walked into my room, locked the door. My hands were shaking. And that's when I remembered something. The original receipt, folded deep in a folder under my bed behind old sheet music and broken strings. It had my name, the full price, the store, the serial number, all of it. Bought by Eliza Carter, paid in full. I stared at the receipt for a long time. I wasn't going to cry, not this time. That's when I made a decision. I wouldn't let this go. Eliza didn't know it yet, but this would be the last time her parents took something from her without consequences. What began with a stolen violin would unravel everything they tried to hide: financial secrets, lies about her college fund, and a long history of sacrificing her for her brother's future. And this time, Eliza was ready. Eliza waited until everyone was asleep. The house always went silent by 10, and her parents had never been light sleepers. She slipped the receipt into her backpack, careful not to crinkle it, and grabbed the old USB drive tucked inside her desk drawer, the one she hadn't used in years, but kept just in case. That just in case was now. She didn't bother tiptoeing. She had nothing left to hide. Downstairs, the lights from Jason's new PC still pulsed through the dark like a rave in slow motion. His door was wide open, of course. He was passed out in his chair, headset still on, some Twitch stream playing in the background. $1,000 of her dream sitting in his lap. Eliza plugged the USB into the family laptop and opened her old school project folder. Inside it, she started a new document and labeled it Asset Redistribution Log, Carter Family. Line by line, she began compiling everything they'd taken from her. Violin, Yamaha Model 5V, serial number, sold without consent to fund Jason's PC. College savings account, originally $8,200, drained 2 years ago, according to FAFSA application, no explanation given. Summer job income, 2019 to 2023, $5,400, deposited into joint account, not transferred to personal savings. Each entry linked to a screenshot, bank statements she'd saved, photos, texts, emails. Her parents had always been careless with their words, especially when they thought she wasn't listening. She backed everything up in 2 cloud accounts and emailed one to herself with a vague subject line, grocery list for, just in case. Then came the hardest part, her Juilliard audition. Eliza had already emailed the program coordinator last month when she made it through the first round, but now she had to tell them her violin was gone. She stared at the blank message box, then started typing. "Dear Miss Keene, I'm writing to request a temporary delay in my audition submission. My primary instrument was recently lost under difficult circumstances. I'm securing a replacement ASAP, but I wanted to keep you informed. Thank you for understanding. Eliza Carter." She hit send. When she looked at the clock again, it was 2:12 a.m., but Eliza didn't feel tired. She felt awake. And tomorrow, she had someone to call. Mr. Melrose, the violin shop owner who sold her that instrument. He once told her if she ever needed anything to let him know. Well, now she needed everything. The bell above the door jingled softly as Eliza stepped into Melrose Strings. The air was rich with the scent of varnish, wood, and old music. Walls were lined with instruments, each one glowing with potential. Her eyes went to the counter where Mr. Melrose, hunched and silver-haired, was adjusting a bridge with delicate care. He looked up, squinted, then smiled. "Eliza Carter, I was wondering when you'd find your way back here." "I need help," she said, her voice firmer than she expected. He gestured toward the stool near the register. "Then sit and tell me everything." She did. She told him about the violin, her parents, the receipt, the stolen money, Jason's PC glowing like a monument to betrayal. She stopped just short of crying, not because she didn't feel it, but because there wasn't time to fall apart. When she finished, Melrose didn't say anything at first. He stood, shuffled to the back, and returned with a velvet-lined case. "I was holding on to this," he said, setting it gently in front of her. "It's not your Yamaha, but it's an honest instrument. French-made, 1950s. Needs someone who plays like they mean it." "I can't afford—" "It's not for sale," he cut in. "It's a loan. Consider it a vote of confidence." Her mouth dropped. "Mr. Melrose, I don't even know how to thank you." "Make Juilliard thank me," he said with a wink. "Now go tune it. I expect music next time you walk through that door." Back home, Eliza didn't even look at her parents. She walked past them, case in hand. Her mother gave her a suspicious glance from the couch. "Where have you been?" "Eliza, answer your mother," her dad barked. She turned in the doorway, calm and cold. "I went to replace what you sold." Before they could respond, she closed her bedroom door. Inside, she set up the violin, her hands shaking as she rosined the bow. When the first note sang out, she felt her breath catch in her throat. It wasn't the same tone as her old Yamaha, but it was something even better. It was hers now, and theirs no longer. That night, she recorded a new audition video, flawless, aching, bold, and then she hit send. The next morning, Jason's voice cracked through the walls. "Yo, what the hell? Where's my PC?" Eliza's heart skipped. She opened her door to see Jason stomping through the hallway, red in the face, cords in hand. "It's gone. They took it." She stepped out slowly. "Who's they?" "Dad sold it," he snapped. "Said we need the money for bills or something. What is going on?" Eliza blinked once. "Sounds like you should be grateful. It's going to something useful." Jason stared at her like she'd grown horns. And in that moment, Eliza felt it. The shift. The balance of power was cracking. Her parents had sold her out one too many times. Now it was their turn to feel the cost. Word spread fast in the Carter household when Jason's prized gaming setup disappeared overnight. He sulked for days, pacing like a lion in a cage, mumbling about injustice. Their parents, strangely, had very little to say, except for passive-aggressive comments at dinner about sacrifices and loyalty to the family. Eliza didn't flinch. She had bigger plans. While they were busy managing Jason's meltdown, Eliza was preparing her next move. Her Juilliard submission had been confirmed with a promising follow-up email. "Your application has moved to the final review panel. Congratulations. We'll be in touch shortly." That email gave her oxygen, but it also gave her something else, leverage. She printed out the email, folded it neatly, and slid it inside the same manila folder that now contained a detailed list of every financial abuse, receipt, and asset transfer over the last 4 years. The file was growing thick. Evidence, dates, signatures, screenshots. She even included the FAFSA discrepancy, the $8,200 that was supposed to be in her college fund but had somehow evaporated after her junior year. Eliza hadn't just filed taxes that year, she made copies of everything. She made 3 versions of the folder, one for herself, one stored digitally on a USB drive taped under her bed, and one left, intentionally, inside her school counselor's locked mailbox with a note. In case anything happens to me or my college application mysteriously falls through, please refer to this file. It documents a pattern of financial interference by my parents that directly impacts my future. Signed, Eliza Carter. 2 days later, the fight finally exploded. It started when Eliza returned from school with a printout of her scholarship eligibility letter. Her counselor had pushed through a secondary grant application, and it looked promising. She set it on the kitchen table like a final move in a chess game. "What's this?" her dad asked, picking it up. "Proof that I don't need your help anymore," Eliza said calmly, "and that I never did." Her mom's face turned red. "Don't be ridiculous. Everything we did, everything we sacrificed was for you and your brother." "Right," Eliza said, "except I never asked you to sell my violin, drain my savings, or lie about a college fund that disappeared the moment Jason needed a new iPhone." Her dad slammed the paper down. "You're part of this family. That means you contribute." "I did," Eliza said, her voice like ice. "You just never gave me credit for it." They stared at her in silence. "You don't have a clue what you've started," her mom whispered. "Oh," Eliza said, picking up her violin case. "I haven't started. I'm just tuning." She walked out of the house before either of them could respond. Her steps were steady, her case in hand. She didn't look back. Not this time. That night, she stayed at her friend Lila's. And for the first time in years, she slept without earplugs, fear, or silence swallowing her whole. Because now, the noise was theirs to deal with. The scent of warm tea and vanilla candles filled Lila's room, a stark contrast to the cold, tense air of the Carter household. Eliza sat cross-legged on the bed, polishing the borrowed violin. Across from her, Lila typed rapidly on her laptop. "You're seriously going through with it?" Lila asked, eyes wide with half horror, half admiration. Eliza nodded. "I'm not just leaving, I'm exposing them. Quietly, precisely, no screaming, no door slamming, no dramatic goodbye. Just the truth. Let them deal with the silence for once." Lila leaned back, shaking her head. "It's savage. I love it." Eliza gave a small smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. Inside, a storm was still churning, but the more she planned, the more it settled into something sharper. Focus. Over the next few days, Eliza rehearsed every minute she could. In Lila's garage, in empty practice rooms at school, even in the music wing after hours. The French violin had a darker tone than her Yamaha, but it sang under her fingertips. Her fingers bled again from overuse, just like they did the first summer she started playing for real. Her counselor called her into the office midweek. "I read your note," Mrs. Dobbins said, closing the door behind her. "I also read the folder." Eliza tensed. "You're brave," Mrs. Dobbins continued gently. "I've reported what I needed to the district and the financial aid office. If anything happens, we have it on file. You did everything right. And," she added with a smile, "Juilliard reached out to verify your current address. They said they're sending something in the mail. I think it's good news." Eliza felt her breath catch. "Seriously?" Mrs. Dobbins nodded. "Seriously." That night, Eliza made one last visit to her old house. Jason wasn't home. Her dad was passed out on the recliner, a half-empty bottle of something cheap still in his hand. Her mom was upstairs, door locked, scrolling endlessly on her phone like nothing was wrong. Eliza didn't speak. She didn't argue. She just walked into her room, now half empty, stripped down, and grabbed her last few things. Sheet music, a flash drive, a letter from her childhood music teacher. Then, on the wall above her desk, she left one note, neatly printed in her careful handwriting. "I am not your asset. I am not your backup plan. I am not your sacrifice. Eliza." Then she stepped out, locking the front door behind her for the final time with the spare key still on her ring. She slid it through the mail slot. No drama, no explosions, just an exit. And the storm she left behind would take time to erupt. But it would, soon. The envelope arrived on a Friday morning, thick, heavy, and gold-trimmed. Eliza knew before she opened it. Her hands trembled anyway. Lila had been waiting at the mailbox with her, still in pajamas and mismatched socks. "Well, open it," she whispered, practically bouncing. Eliza peeled the flap slowly. Inside was a navy blue folder embossed with a single gold word: Juilliard. She unfolded the letter with deliberate care. Her eyes skimmed it once, then again, slower. "We are thrilled to inform you that you have been accepted into the Juilliard School's undergraduate program with a merit-based scholarship covering full tuition. Your application demonstrated outstanding talent, resilience, and artistry. Welcome to the class of 2029. Eliza didn't speak. She just sat down on the curb, tears welling in her eyes. Not from sadness, not from fear, but from something far rarer: relief. Lila screamed full volume before pulling her into a bear hug that nearly knocked them both over. "I knew it! I knew it! They don't even know what's coming!" But Eliza was quiet, not because she doubted, but because she was already thinking ahead. They would know, not just her parents, but everyone. That afternoon, Eliza emailed 3 people. The Juilliard office, confirming her intent to enroll and providing her new mailing address at Lila's for all further communications. The financial aid office, attaching the folder of misused funds and a request that any communication with her parents regarding finances be ceased immediately. A lawyer, a woman named Carla Bishop, recommended by Mrs. Dobbins, specializes in minor emancipation, financial abuse, and recovery of assets. By Monday, things began to unravel. Her father showed up at school. Eliza saw him through the glass of the front office as he argued with the receptionist, red-faced and sputtering something about being cut out of her life and "she owes us that scholarship." But when Mrs. Dobbins emerged with 2 security guards, calmly explaining that Eliza was now registered as a protected student with restricted parental access, her dad froze. Eliza watched from down the hall. He turned to see her through the crowd of students and froze again. She didn't move, didn't flinch, just held his gaze with the full weight of everything he'd stolen and everything she'd just taken back. Then she turned and walked away. That night, she uploaded her final performance video to YouTube. Title: What They Tried to Take From Me. It opened with a quiet monologue. Eliza, sitting on a simple stool, violin in her lap. "This is for every kid told to be grateful for being robbed, for every sibling overlooked, for every artist sacrificed for someone else's comfort. This is my voice, and it's louder than their silence." Then came the music. 4 minutes of raw, precise, soul-drenched melody that bled years of grief and resolve into every note. It went viral overnight. But more importantly, it reached them. Eliza received a message 2 days later from her aunt, a woman she barely remembered, her mother's estranged sister. "I saw your video. I had no idea what they'd done to you. I left for the same reasons. If you ever need a place, my door is open." Eliza stared at the screen, then looked up at Lila. "I think I just found the rest of my family," she said. Lila grinned. "Told you, they don't know what they started." And she was right, because Eliza wasn't just escaping now, she was rewriting her story. 2 weeks had passed since the video, 4 million views, hundreds of comments, some praising her performance, others sharing stories eerily similar to hers. "They told me I was selfish for keeping the money my grandma left me. Turns out they'd spent it before I even turned 18. My brother got a car. I got told to walk. Thank you, Eliza. You spoke for all of us." The response was overwhelming, empowering, but with visibility came consequences. Back at the Carter household, the pressure cooker was about to blow. Jason stormed through the kitchen, slamming drawers and yelling into his phone. "I told you, dude, she's lying. She's making us look like monsters." In the living room, their mother sat in silence, for the first time, truly silent. The television blared news coverage of a trending story. Viral violinist exposes family financial abuse, scholarship awarded after escape. The footage was unmistakable, Eliza's face, her voice, her truth. Their dad paced behind the couch, seething. "I built this house, put food on that girl's plate, and this is how she thanks me?" Their mother finally looked up. Her voice was thin. "She didn't lie, Tom." He froze. "What did you say?" She didn't lie. Her eyes were vacant now, like someone watching their own reflection crack. I always knew we were unfair. I just thought she'd get over it, that she'd stay. Jason threw his hands up. So that's it? We just let her walk out and become famous for dragging us? Their dad's face turned dark. No, she doesn't win. He pulled out his phone and began dialing. If she thinks she can humiliate us online and cut us out? But their mother stood suddenly, her voice sharper now. Tom, don't. He paused. If you go after her now, you'll only make it worse. Look around. We already lost her. And it wasn't the video that did it. Her voice cracked. It was us. Meanwhile, Eliza sat across from Carla Bishop in a cozy, sunlit law office downtown. The paperwork for legal emancipation was halfway done. Carla flipped through the file folder Eliza had handed her weeks ago. Between the financial abuse, coerced asset transfer, and the video testimony, this is a strong case, she said. You've done more groundwork than most adults I represent. Eliza exhaled, almost embarrassed. I didn't have a choice. Carla smiled softly. Sometimes survival is strategy. You've earned your future, Eliza. Eliza nodded. What happens if they try to contact me? She asked. We can file a no-contact order once the emancipation is finalized. In the meantime, document everything. Eliza reached into her bag and slid over a screenshot, a voicemail transcription from her father. You ungrateful brat, you owe us everything. We can still make things very hard for you. Carla's expression hardened. Good, that'll help. That night, Eliza practiced in Lila's garage like usual, but this time with the door open. A crowd had started gathering in the evenings, neighbors, classmates, even a few strangers who'd driven from across town after seeing her video. They never clapped until she finished, they just listened. And when Eliza played, she didn't just hear herself anymore. She heard them, all of them. The ones who never got a voice, the ones who still couldn't leave. She wasn't just playing for Juilliard anymore. She was playing for every kid who'd been told to be silent. And her sound was only growing louder. It was the letter that made everything real. Official court stationery, her name in bold at the top. Eliza Carter, petition for legal emancipation, approved. Lila found her in the kitchen that morning, the letter still clenched in her hand. She didn't say anything at first, just wrapped Eliza in the kind of hug that didn't need words. It was done. She was free. That afternoon, Eliza met with Carla one final time to sign the remaining documents. The emancipation was more than a legal move. It meant Eliza could now control her own finances, apply for housing, and enroll in Juilliard without interference. Her name no longer belonged to her parents' paperwork. Her future no longer passed through their gatekeeping. Carla pushed a final envelope toward her. There's one more thing. Eliza raised a back pay. Carla said, we filed a restitution claim, and surprisingly, they didn't contest it. Might be the video. Might be that they don't want more attention. Eliza opened it slowly. $6,500. Her violin's worth. Her stolen summer wages. A small slice of what she'd lost. But in her hands, it felt like victory. She swallowed hard. I didn't think. I'd never expected to get anything back. Survivors rarely do, Carla said, but justice doesn't always come in a courtroom. Sometimes it comes through noise. And you, Eliza, you made a lot of noise. Back at school, the atmosphere had changed. Her teachers treated her with a new kind of respect, quiet, watchful, as if they finally realized what she'd been carrying all these years. Students who'd barely spoken to her before now nodded in the halls. You for showing me it's okay to walk away. Another had a phone number and a line. If you ever need another place to play, I run a nonprofit for girls in music. We'd love to have you visit. Eliza tucked them into her notebook without a word. And then came the one she hadn't expected, from Jason, left inside a blank envelope taped to her old locker. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. I was awful. I believed them when they said you were just dramatic. I thought you were being selfish, but now I see what they took from you. I'm sorry. You don't have to forgive me, but I wanted you to know I'm not angry anymore. I'm just lost. Jay. She read it 3 times, then folded it neatly. She wasn't ready to write back, but maybe one day she would. On the last night before she left for New York, Lila threw a send-off party in her backyard. Nothing big, just her closest friends, her counselor, Carla, and a few of the local musicians who'd started jamming with her after the video blew up. There were fairy lights, mismatched chairs, and paper plates full of cake. And in the middle of it all, Eliza stood with her violin, playing a set she'd composed just for this moment. It wasn't polished, it wasn't perfect, but it was hers. Every note stitched together the girl they tried to silence and the woman she was becoming. And as her bow fell on the final note, the crowd didn't clap right away. They stood, in silence, in solidarity. Then came the applause, thunderous, healing, and utterly hers. Eliza Carter had once been a footnote in her own family. Now she was writing every page. The train to New York clattered over the tracks in a soothing rhythm, each mile carrying Eliza further from what used to define her. She sat by the window with her violin case across her lap, her backpack tucked at her feet. The city skyline loomed in the distance, jagged and beautiful, just like her. She wasn't nervous, not anymore. Juilliard wasn't just a dream now. It was her destination, her next chapter. She glanced at her phone, a new message from Carla. Filed the no contact paperwork this morning. You're protected. They cannot legally reach you anymore. Eliza exhaled slowly. It was done. Truly done. When she stepped into the Juilliard residence hall, everything felt different. The floors gleamed, her RA smiled and offered her a welcome packet. Other students hustled past with cases slung over their shoulders, talking about concertos and composers and performance schedules. And for once, she didn't feel like the outsider. She felt like she belonged. Her dorm room was small but bright, with a view of the city skyline. Lila had helped her decorate it before heading back home. Fairy lights, old photos, and a tiny paper crane taped to the corner of her mirror. A note scribbled underneath it read, "Let the world hear you now. No more holding back. L." Her first rehearsal was in Studio C. She arrived early, case in hand, heart steady. The other musicians greeted her with polite curiosity, some already recognizing her from the viral video, others not connecting her name to the girl who'd once shattered the internet with a 4-minute symphony of grief and rage. But once she raised the bow, there was no mistaking her. The first notes swelled through the studio like smoke, haunting, rich, unmistakably hers. The conductor lowered his hand slowly, eyes wide. "You wrote that?" he asked. Eliza nodded. "Play it again," he said, "and this time, let it burn." And she did. This time, she let every unspoken moment in her life bleed into the strings. Every dismissal, every sacrifice, every stolen dollar and silenced cry. She let it burn down to the bones. By the time the piece ended, the room was silent. Someone whispered, "Holy hell." Someone else whispered, "That's her." Eliza smiled. Yes, that's her. Later that week, Juilliard's dean reached out to schedule a meeting. Eliza arrived with her notepad, assuming it was a scholarship paperwork check-in. But when she stepped inside, the dean stood up to shake her hand with a grin. "I just got off a call with a producer from the Kennedy Center," he said. "They want you to perform that piece, your piece, as the closing act for their Young Artist Spotlight." Eliza blinked. "Wait, they want me? Like my composition?" "Your composition, your story," he confirmed. "They think you represent something bigger than talent. You represent change. You in?" Eliza nodded slowly, then with more confidence. "I'm in." That night, she walked through Central Park with her violin strapped to her back and a warm drink in hand. The city buzzed around her, full of stories, full of noise. But inside her, there was a new kind of quiet, a knowing, a certainty. She was no longer someone waiting to be heard. She was the sound. Rehearsals for the Kennedy Center performance began just 2 weeks after the call. The invitation had sent a ripple through the classical music world. Who was this teenager whose piece was selected over legacy students, whose video still circled the internet, who played like she was pouring her soul into every note? Eliza felt the pressure rising with every new day. But pressure, she'd learned, didn't scare her anymore. Her piece, now titled Inheritance, was being orchestrated for full ensemble. The composition professor, Dr. Halvorsen, worked closely with her, often asking about the emotion behind each movement. "You don't write like a student," he said once, tapping his pen against the margin. "You write like someone clawing her way out of a burning room." Eliza tilted her head. That's exactly what it felt like. Word of the performance reached more people than expected. Journalists began requesting interviews. Rolling Stone, The Times, even a spot on a daytime talk show. Eliza agreed to a few, but refused anything that felt like spectacle. "I'll tell my story once," she said. "After that, let the music speak." 1 week before the show, she received an anonymous envelope in her door mailbox. No return address. Inside was a single folded piece of paper. "We saw what you did. We see you now, and we're proud. B." It wasn't signed, but Eliza knew. Her aunt, maybe even her grandmother, who'd been silent for years after taking her parents' side. Either way, it was the first trace of warmth she'd felt from her blood family in ages. She tucked it into her music binder. Not because she needed validation, but because it meant they were listening. On the day of the performance, the Kennedy Center buzzed with press and guests. Eliza paced backstage, gripping the bow like an extension of her arm. Her name echoed through the intercom. "Eliza Carter to the wings, please. You're on in 5. The stage manager passed her a small earpiece. "We've added a live stream link to your viral channel," he said. "You're trending again, by the way." Eliza smiled faintly. "Let's make it worth the hype." The lights dimmed. The curtain rose. She stepped out alone at first, violin in hand. The crowd was a blur, faces upon faces, all watching. Then silence. She took her stance. The orchestra behind her waited for her cue, and then she played. The first movement was raw, almost violent, fast bow strokes, stabbing notes, discord that clawed at the edge of control. It was the sound of everything she'd endured: betrayal, confusion, fury. The second movement softened into sorrow. The notes lingered longer, like questions left unanswered. It was the sound of an empty bedroom, a stolen violin, a family that never listened. And the final movement? It was flight. No words could describe it. Rising harmonics, hopeful motifs, the echo of resilience. A sound that didn't ask for permission. A sound that declared itself. When the last note fell into silence, the auditorium stayed still, for 3 heartbeats. 4. Then it rose. The applause was tidal. People stood. Hands clapped above heads. Some were crying. And Eliza stood at the center of it all, bow in hand, eyes burning, heart unshaken. They heard her now. The night after the Kennedy Center performance, Eliza's inbox was a war zone. Most of it was beautiful. Invitations from conservatories, praise from critics, feature offers from music magazines. But wedged between the congratulations were new kinds of messages, sharp-edged, bitter, seething. "Enjoy it while it lasts. You only got here because you played the victim." "Spoiled brat who humiliated her family for likes." "Hope your 15 minutes end before you drag someone else down." And then, one message from her mother. No subject, no greeting, just, "You were supposed to be better than this. Instead, you chose to shame us. I hope it was worth it." Eliza stared at it for a long time. She didn't reply. She forwarded it to Carla, along with the others. The legal documentation around her emancipation gave her control, but Carla had warned her, people don't always let go quietly, even when the law tells them to. Still, she felt no urge to hide, no desire to explain herself. She had no reason to be ashamed. Later that week, during a masterclass at Juilliard, the renowned conductor Anton Mikhailov watched Eliza play an excerpt of Inheritance and lowered his baton halfway through. "You wrote this for yourself," he said, in his heavy Russian accent, "but do you realize you've written it for others, too?" She blinked, unsure how to answer. "I've seen this happen with great works," he said. He approached slowly. "A piece is born of one soul, but ends up carrying thousands. Your pain has velocity now, Eliza. Direction. Don't ever waste it." That night, she sat at the practice piano in the student lounge, replaying those words in her head. Velocity. Direction. She opened a new score sheet, hand hovering over the page. A new piece began to take shape, not an echo of the past, but something different, something forward. Meanwhile, far from New York, her video and performance had sparked something unexpected, a wave of other teens, students, even adults, sharing their own stories of financial abuse, silent survival, and overlooked dreams. Posts under hashtags like #NotYourSacrifice and #MyVoiceToo began flooding social media. A nonprofit reached out, asking if Eliza would consider becoming a youth ambassador for creative survivors of familial exploitation. Just think about it, the director said on the call. You don't have to be a spokesperson. You already are. A month later, Eliza returned to her hometown. Not to visit, not to reconcile, but to perform. The high school auditorium had offered her the stage as part of a community arts outreach. Layla had helped organize it. Posters had gone up around town. Eliza Carter, Homegrown Strings, A Journey Backward and Forward. Rumors swirled. Her old teachers planned to attend. Some of the neighbors who used to smile politely while saying nothing now rushed to buy tickets. And yes, her parents received the flyer. Eliza knew it. Layla had mailed them one. They probably won't show, Layla had said with a shrug, but that's not the point. Eliza smiled. Exactly. Because this time, the auditorium would be full of kids who needed to hear her music, really hear it. Kids who still thought silence was survival. And she was going to show them the truth. That surviving wasn't the end of the story. It was just the first movement. The stage felt smaller than she remembered. Same scratched floor, same flickering exit sign in the back, same row of auditorium seats with that one broken armrest no one ever fixed. But this time, Eliza stood at the center, under the spotlight, with her own name on the banner above the stage. Eliza Carter, Hometown Encore. She peered out from behind the curtain before the show started. The auditorium was packed. Old teachers. Her middle school orchestra instructor, Mrs. Whitcomb, sat front row, tears already in her eyes. Layla waved from the third row, camera in hand. A group of local music students filled the first few rows, hugging their instrument cases like lifelines. And in the very back row, Jason. He wore a hoodie, slouched low, half hidden in shadow, but she saw him, and he didn't look away. Her heart beat hard in her chest. She'd told herself this night wasn't about them, but part of her had always wondered if they'd dare show their faces. Her parents weren't there, of course not, but Jason, that meant something. Maybe not everything, but something. She walked out onto the stage. The room went silent. Then, applause. Real, roaring, earned. Eliza smiled softly and raised her violin. I used to sit in that corner, she said, pointing to the back left of the stage. During recitals, I was the quiet one. I was always scared someone would notice I didn't belong here. A few heads nodded. She continued, Turns out, I did belong here. I just hadn't found the right key yet. Light laughter rippled across the audience. She turned to the mic again. Tonight, I want to play 3 pieces. The first is the one you probably saw online, Inheritance. The second is new. It's called Break the Frame. I wrote it for every kid who feels trapped in someone else's story. And the third? She kept that one a surprise. Inheritance echoed through the auditorium with a haunting familiarity, but this time, Eliza played it differently. Not just with pain, but with power. There was something refined now, mature, forged in fire, but cooled in control. Break the Frame followed, full of unexpected twists, modern influences, spoken word snippets, bursts of chaotic rhythm. The audience sat stunned as Eliza whispered lyrics under the final phrases. You don't get to write my story. I burned that page already. When she finished, the applause was thunderous. But the third piece? She stepped forward and raised the mic one last time. I wasn't going to share this, she began, but after tonight, I think I need to. The lights dimmed, a piano spotlight flicked on. Eliza walked over and sat at the bench. I call this piece Unsaid. And then, in the stillness, she played. A slow, aching melody, notes that hovered between longing and goodbye. No anger this time, just acceptance, a release. And when the final note faded into silence, she looked up. Jason was gone. Only the empty seat remained. But that was okay, because her story wasn't about chasing apologies anymore. It was about building something new. After the show, the music students swarmed her, asking questions, begging for tips, some just wanting a hug. Mrs. Whitcomb pulled her into a tearful embrace. Even the school principal stammered a shy apology and asked her to consider doing a future masterclass. But it was the quiet girl near the exit that caught Eliza's attention. She stood frozen, eyes wide, holding a crumpled notebook. "You're Eliza," the girl whispered. "The violin girl, the one who got out." Eliza nodded, crouching to meet her eyes. "What's your name?" "Marin." "You play too?" Marin hesitated, then held up her notebook. Inside were hand-sketched music notes, dozens of them. "I don't have an instrument yet," she said, "but I write music in my head." Eliza smiled. "Then you're already ahead of where I was." She reached into her bag, pulled out a spare practice bow, and handed it over. "Keep writing," she said. "One day, I'll open for you." Marin clutched it like it was gold. And as Eliza packed up her case that night, she realized something simple and unshakable. She hadn't just taken her voice back. She was passing it on. A week after the hometown concert, Eliza was back in New York, her calendar packed with rehearsals, studio sessions, and quiet visits to the park where she liked to play for strangers. Her life now moved with momentum, but it wasn't chaos. It was composition, deliberate, dynamic, and hers to conduct. She'd just returned from a session with a film score director who wanted to feature her work in an indie documentary. Her fingers were sore, her body exhausted. But as she dropped her bag by the door and stepped into the dorm bathroom to wash her face, something on the mirror caught her attention. It was a sticky note, written in handwriting she knew instantly. "I still don't know how to say it, but I'm proud of you. Jay." Eliza stared at it for a long time. Jason had been quiet since the concert. He hadn't messaged her, hadn't followed up, but he had been there. And now this, a note left in the shared hallway bathroom of her dorm floor, meaning he must have been there, visiting someone, or looking for her. She peeled the note carefully and tucked it into her journal. Later that evening, Eliza attended a panel at a community center in Queens, part of the new outreach initiative she had quietly agreed to co-lead. The panel was titled, "When Home Hurts, Art as a Path Out." There were poets, dancers, a singer-songwriter who once lived in her car, and Eliza. She felt imposter syndrome clawed her as she waited to speak. Everyone else seemed older, louder, more seasoned. Then they called her name. She stepped up to the mic, the lights catching in her curls, violin in hand. She didn't perform this time. She spoke. "I used to think I had to survive in silence," she began. "I thought that keeping things inside was noble, that pain was just part of growing up." A few people nodded in the back rows. "But silence never saved me," she said. "It protected the people who hurt me, and it almost took away everything I am." She looked across the crowd, students, counselors, social workers, survivors. "But then I found my sound, and I learned that the truth, when shared with care, doesn't destroy you. It frees you." Applause rolled through the room, gentle but firm. Afterward, one of the panelists approached her. Amira, a spoken word artist who had performed a piece about escaping an abusive guardian. "You know," she said, "what you're doing, it's bigger than music. You're giving people permission." "Permission for what?" Eliza asked. "To start again," Amira replied, "to rebuild out loud." Back at the dorm that night, Eliza opened her laptop and pulled up a new document. Title: The Sound Left Behind, a memoir in movements. Not just music, not just melody, a book. A full account, from the violin being sold to the Kennedy Center, to Marin and the sticky note on the bathroom mirror. The truth. This time, with no edits, no sugarcoating, no protection for the people who tried to bury her. Only clarity. Only sound. And as she typed the first lines, her phone buzzed. A new email. Subject: Your story deserves the stage. From the TED Foundation. Eliza's eyes widened. She opened it. "We'd like to invite you to speak at TED Youth this fall. Your story has already moved millions. Now, we'd like to help you move the world." She sat back, stunned. She wasn't done telling her story. She was just discovering the amplifier. The stage lights at TED Youth were softer than Eliza expected, warm and gold, more like sunrise than spotlight. She stood center stage, mic clipped to her collar, violin resting against her shoulder. The crowd was hushed, expectant. Beyond the stage, cameras, live stream feeds, millions of viewers from schools and homes across the world. Eliza looked out across the sea of young faces, the same age she'd been when she first realized her home wasn't safe. Her voice, when she spoke, was steady. When I was 16, my parents sold my violin. They didn't ask, they didn't care. They said I should be grateful, that my brother needed it more. But it wasn't about the violin. It was about silence, about control, and how long they expected me to give up who I was to keep them comfortable. She paused. The room was absolutely still. That night, I found a receipt, the proof it was mine. That was the moment I realized something simple and terrifying. If I didn't fight for my voice, no one else would. So I stopped asking. I started playing louder. The screen behind her lit up with a photo, her old room, her hand holding the original receipt. I didn't just lose a violin, I lost my home. But I gained something else, a new family, a new future, and the unshakable belief that your voice is your own, even when it shakes. Then she lifted her bow and played. A piece she had written just for this night, titled Everything I Couldn't Say. It began soft and uncertain, notes falling like questions. Then it rose, fierce, soaring, full of storms and stars. A theme of survival melted into one of arrival, not triumphant, but honest, not angry, but whole. When she finished, the room stood in silence. Then the applause rose, slow, reverent, and deafening. She bowed, and as she stepped off stage, her phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from a contact saved only as Jason. I watched. You didn't just survive us. You transformed it. Thank you for leaving a map behind. 6 months later, Eliza stood outside a quiet brownstone on the Upper West Side. A small plaque read, The Carter Center for Young Artists, funded by grant donations, speaker fees, and a generous partner nonprofit. The center offered private music lessons, recording equipment, therapy resources, and legal aid referrals for youth escaping abuse and neglect. Marin, now her first student, was inside, tuning her first real violin. Lila sat at the front desk, organizing workshop flyers. And Eliza? She stepped inside, hung her coat, and smiled. She had her music, she had her name, and she had her sound. Not in spite of what had been stolen, but because she